All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is the first part of the Pastured Poultry series through North Jersey RC&D's Regenerative Farm Network. So this series is getting kicked off by Elise Haring of Haring Family Farms, and she's going to be talking about chick care. Our next webinar is going to be April 2nd with Craig Haney. He's going to be talking about growing out birds on pastures. And then to cap it all off, we're going to have a field day, and that's going to be at Haring Family Farm and also with Beck Youd at Grand Cru Farm. So that's going to be April 25th. So I hope you can all join us for that. We will also have Jeff Maddox of Fertrell talking there as well. So it should be a pretty exciting event. Um, and I also just want to mention Regenerative Farm Network also has a mentorship program. So applications for that are open right now. And so that is for mentors and mentees to apply. And we're looking to fill 3 mentorship pairs. So we are going to review applications on April 1st, but applications will remain open after that until all 3 pairs are filled for 2026. Mentors receive up to a $1,500 stipend for their time, and mentees receive up to an $1,100 stipend towards education. So I will share links for that in the chat. And now I'll turn it over to Elise to introduce herself and kick it off.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you for being here today. If you didn't already know, today is actually National Poultry Day. I should know that, but I actually was reminded from my Facebook memories today. But I just wanted to introduce myself that I'm Elise Haring, owner, farmer with my husband, Lucas Haring at Haring Family Farm. On our farm, we raise broilers, layers, turkeys, pigs, cows, and 2 awesome farm kids. We've been doing this. We're going into our 12th growing season of chickens. And I just want to start by saying farming in general is just to each their own. So what works for me might not work for you. What works for someone else might also not work for you. So I just wanted to give this presentation as with open minds. And we've learned a lot through those years of trial and error, as everyone does in farming. And one of those things is the brooder. The brooder is your first fresh start of getting those chicks, and it's their first start of life. So it's really your responsibility to see what works for you and what works for your chicks. I think that's it, Sam. Yeah, let's go into the next one. So unfortunately, my internet isn't working, rural America internet. So I just wanted to, Sam is running my slideshow for me. But before you even get your chicks home from the brooder startup starts before the chicks come. So you'll either know that they're arriving. Hopefully you're not already just picking them up at the Tractor Supply without your husband knowing and trying to start this after you already got your chicks. Because most of the time you need to start your brooder, you need to get it warmed up. You need to have it set up. I also am very I just do things, on the fly of the seat of my pants. So I understand that too. But the brooder setup is, it should be cleaned. It should be disinfected. If you're starting with all brand new things, obviously you don't need to really clean much. You're going to be warming it up, and then you're going to be choosing your heat source. So heat sources can range from any kinds of different things. In the picture here, I show you that we have heat lamps. Great source of heat for your chicks. The reason why we use heat lamps after a few different choices of heat sources for our farm is because they work efficiently. If they break, they're really easy to replace. You can have extra bulbs, you can have extra lamps right outside of your brooder or on a shelf somewhere. And if something happens, you can change that right away. We also use forced heat in our brooder setup right now. We have used infrared heat. So infrared heat, it worked really well until it didn't. And you can't really just have infrared heat sitting on your shelf. You could, but it's not as efficient as having heat lamps or an extra forced air heat, which we use electric heaters. We have never used propane on our farm. We we have friends that use propane heat. What's great about propane heat is that you're able to adjust the temperature. Well, we use a thermostat that is in our brooder, and we use it and we work it outside of our brooder. We have a large scale brooder. So in your small scale brooders, you're going to want something like a small temperature gauge, or even an infrared heat gun. We use that. We actually use it really a lot through our brooder stages because we want to ensure that the heat under those heat lamps is hot enough and there's enough heat for the amount of chicks that you have in your brooder. Propane is also, it's the pros of it is that you can adjust the temperature and it gives you a wide variety of heat. The cons, in my opinion, are if you run out of propane and you're not ready to, you're waiting on someone to come in and fill that propane. Sam, you can go to the next slide. So in this brooder setup, in this slide, I should say, I actually wanted to show you all different types of brooders because some people are just starting out and it's easy to have a stock tank brooder. And let's face it, we've started there too. We started with a stock tank because I wasn't really sure if I wanted chicks or chickens around my child. Ava was only about 2 years old when we got chickens, and I had a completely different understanding of chickens and that I do now. So we did start with a stock tank, and I would suggest a stock tank brooder. You would only be able to fit maybe 6 to 10 chicks, maybe 15 if you really push it. But again, you're going to be graduating from that brooder pretty quickly. The Ohio brooder in the second picture here is something we've also used. We actually used it in one of our like horse stalls, and it's a great way to start a bigger quantity of chicks. So this is, you could probably, depending on the size that you build or you purchase, 10 to 50 chicks is a great start. Around the Ohio brooder, we will put our water and feed just so that they could come out and just drink and eat and go right back under that heat source if you're not heating that entire room. I've never used a battery brooder, but I wanted to put this out there because I have seen other people that do use the battery brooder for a smaller space. And I really don't know much about it other than the chicks. It's a stackable, so you can have anywhere from 20 to 200 chicks. But when you choose your heat source, this is, I just wanted to show a few things. So for the Ohio brooder, we used heat lamps as well, with some proper secure on the top of it. That same Ohio, actually, Sam, you can go to the next slide. So this is actually where we started. Yes, this is in my house. Yes, I don't recommend this, but when you're passionate about becoming a poultry farmer, you will do anything. And this is where we started. So this is about 50 chicks that when we started. And yeah, now this is actually a Ohio brooder we put upside down, and we now use this at the Hunterdon County Polytech Animal Science. That we work with them every year. We do a chicken study. We give them 20 of our chicks and they raise them on 2 separate kinds of feed, our feed that we provide and a commercial feed. And they do a study. It's incredible what these kids can really learn through that entire process. And then when their chickens are ready to process, they actually come to us. But that's not on this slide. This is just information that I wanted to tell you. So this is just a box that my husband and I built, and you can see on the corners we have them kind of graded off so that the chickens shouldn't have a square side, just so that they kind of don't get stuck and things like that. You can see the proper shavings, but again, we didn't even have the little small feeders that we have here. We didn't even have them properly large or anything like that because they were just coming. So these are 2 1-gallon waters, and our heat source was again a heat lamp. Sam, you can go to the next one. So this is what we're working with now. We've gone through a lot of different brooder setups. This is our large scale brooder that we're using as of right now. We have 400 chickens in there. And we've kind of just, with our farm, we like to use things that are kind of laying around or something that suits our needs. So if you look around our brooder, you can see that we have multiple heat lamps so that there is heat around for everyone to get some kind of warmth. If you can see, we have old milk crates that we've used to kind of consolidate all of the chicks into a smaller area while these were only a few days old. Actually, they might have been a week old, just to give them, like, they're not going out of the heat. They're more consolidated. We use turbo feeders, which I'm going to show on another slide. Again, we gradually use the shavings up on the corners so that we don't have those square edges for chicks to kind of get trapped. But as you can tell, in the top front, you can see that they're kind of piling a little, but most of the time they're eating. You can see they're drinking. In here we have the bell waterer, but I just wanted to show you what our setup right now is. You can go to the next slide, Sam. So here are some different materials that I wanted to show you of starting out. Again, to each their own. As you're starting as a small scale, you might want to use chick paper, or maybe on a large scale, some people, when you're bringing thousands of chicks in at a time, some people will use chick paper as well. We do not use chick paper. We use what you can see here of the turbo feeders in their first few weeks of life. So proper floor covering is first and foremost pretty important. You don't want large flakes of these tiny little chickens that are only a few inches tall to be trampling over large pieces of shavings, but also you don't want small, teeny tiny pieces of shaving that they might consider food. Water is also very, very important. So when you first get your chicks, one of those first things that you want them to know is where their water is. So proper sizing as well. So if we go back and think about that stock tank brooder, you're not going to want a 1 gallon water in there. Your chickens will be soaked. So they have smaller waters, but you will have to be refilling that frequently. Also, if you have a water that, you have a big enough brooder, but the water might be too big, but you know that they'll be gradually getting in there, we have used rocks to put in, that red area at the bottom where it fills up with water, just so that the chicks don't get in there, get stuck, have no traction to get out, and essentially drown. Turkeys as well. Turkeys, if you don't already know, they're not the smartest bird. They're beautiful, but they're not the smartest bird. We always usually add rocks around that red, that holding area of water. We also, when our chicks come, we start them with 1 gallon waters. Unfortunately, that picture didn't show it because they had already graduated, but we use these 1 gallon waters here in that first picture, and we add apple cider vinegar to their water to give them a boost of for their immune system and to aid their digestion from their journey from the hatchery or even from Tractor Supply. If you're buying your chicks from your local feed store or Tractor Supply, overall, your chicks have come in contact with something that they need that extra boost. So we do that for their first week of life. Those 1 gallon waters will be refilled throughout the day, as well as they always have access to fresh water in their bell water. The feeders, you do not want them too tall. They're very small chicks. You don't want them too tall. So that chick feeder that's from 1 to 2 weeks in that second picture is also a great place to start if you have the room in your brooder. We started with them as well. They start off well, and then they kind of use them as like they're bouncing all over. So really, I would only suggest them for the 1 to 2 weeks. The turbo feeders work well. Honestly, they work from the start till about 4 or 5 weeks until we graduate them out of the brooder and into a larger type of turbo feeder. The bell water that I have here is just showing you that that's what we use as fresh water at all times in our brooder system. Next. So your brooder's up to temperature. Your chicks are coming from the feed store, the post office, wherever you're picking your chicks up from, and now you've got your apple cider vinegar water, and these are some other proper things that you need in your brooder. One of those things is I like to, if that center picture, I try to do as many as I can. I know that I get 400 chickens every 2 weeks, but We are constantly dipping chickens' beaks because once one kind of gets to see that that's where the water is, and you dump maybe five more, they see that water source, they see that chick that just got dunked and it's drinking its water, and that just makes them realize where their water source is. That's extremely important when they first come to you. Finding their water source is one of the most important things. Um, just by nature, they find their feed. And I'm sure that they would find their water, but when they get here, think about their journey to your farm or house, and you already know that they've had one really crazy journey. On the last picture that I have here is chick grit. That's what we give our chickens for the first few weeks. Chick grit is the smallest grit that you can buy. They do have it at Tractor Supply and your local feed stores. And this picture that I actually posted was just our second batch of chickens. And naturally, they find the chick grit. Why is chick grit important? Chick grit, any grit is really important for chickens to aid their digestion, and it should be a part of their diets at all times. Um, I said the last one says continue to observe your chick's behavior in the temperature of the brooder. This is not a set it and forget it. Brooders are extremely flammable. They are, you need to keep them as safe as you can keep them, as well as you want to keep checking on your chicks. If it's too hot, your chicks will flee from the heat source, and sometimes they'll be in water to kind of cool down, or they'll be drinking a ton of water. But you need to just kind of observe what your chicks are looking like in the brooder to ensure that they are getting what they need to get that fresh start in life. You can go to the next slide, Sam. All right, I kind of just talked about this, but if your chickens are kind of spread out to the outer parts of your brooder, that's showing you that they are too hot. If they're kind of crammed underneath those heat lamps and they're not moving to go out and get feed or water, that's showing you that they are cold and they don't want to go out to eat or drink. When they crowd under those heat sources, whether it's lamps or propane or any of that, that's where you're going to get death, or you will also have a lot of them dying or piling, and what could lead to their legs. Their legs are very tiny, brittle, little tiny legs, and they can spread out. And unfortunately, most of the time you can splint them, but it's not the way of life that you really want to give them their first start. So you want to make sure that the heat is evenly spread out throughout your brooder, whatever your brooder's heat source is. Keep your waters clean of shavings. I mean, they're chicks. They're running around. It's funny, if you ever had chicks in a brooder once, or have seen them, they start off when they first get there, they're kind of just like observing, and then all of a sudden they get their first drink of water, they find their feeders, and then they'll be zooming around and they have so much energy. So they'll kick the shavings into their waters, and that has manure on it. So you're best to keep your waters clean so that they're constantly having access to clean water. As for shaking the feeders, this is something that is like a proven method for our farm. So chicks are, they don't have a mother hen around unless they are actually brooded by their own mothers. And when they are with their own mothers, they're watching their mother drink and they're watching their mother eat. When you have a brooder full of chicks and you don't have a mother hen, you can do that for them. So if you're going into your brooder, it's best to, shake those feeders a little, maybe run your hand through the feed just to show them that this is their feed. It excites them. It's something like, oh, this must be new, or maybe she added some extra feed to it and they want to go there. I can't tell you how many times that I'll walk into the brooder and they're just kind of chilling out under their heat, or just away from the heat. And as soon as I go in and I maybe move the waters to a different spot, or if I, ruffle up the feed, they all of a sudden are up. And by the time I'm leaving, those feeders are full, those waterers are full, and they go back to eating, and then they'll go back to resting. So if you I understand that not everyone has access to their brooder all day like I do, but it really truly does work with keeping them eating and drinking, which means they are growing, and they're growing at the proper rate that they should be. You can go to the next slide. The best way to ensure to avoid leg issues is by ensuring there's enough space in the brooder and under the heat source. I went over that. Pasty butt. So um, we've been really fortunate to really not have many sick chicks, but there has been a time that we've had pasty butt many moons ago. And that's also if you aren't giving them some kind of electrolyte or apple cider vinegar, you might run into something like that. But we hope that we are starting with apple cider vinegar and electrolyte to start to give them that good boost. But if you do run into a pasty butt issue, I have what's worked for me. Again, might not work for you, but it's for me, it's a game changer. If you have access to eggs, you hard boil them. You then take the whole hard boiled egg, you blend them in a blender. I use my magic bullet for this. It gets them in the shells into really small particles, and I put them on a paper plate or some kind of plate and give them access to that, and they gobble them up, and whatever is in the amino acid profile, it helps with pasty butt. I've heard of it from other farmers. I've used it myself and it works. So I wanted to give that to you as well. If you ever run into that issue. Sneezing. So if you hear little chicks sneezing, and you'll hear, it's not going to be your whole flock, but maybe you'll hear a one or a two, and you have to really think, well, what could be the problem? Is it too dusty? Is it too wet? Is there too much moisture? Most of the time it's usually not going to be, it's going to be dry or dusty. So just kind of observe of what your brooder's looking like and maybe what could be the issue. But if you see that there might be some, and they're maybe 3 or 4 weeks old, give them a boost of electrolytes or apple cider vinegar in their water. And if it persists, unfortunately, I would say to call a doctor or a vet that works with chickens. I really don't know of many in our area, but I'm sure there are. But that is something that you can try and treat best, because it won't go away. So you can go to the next one. All right. So proper heat in your brooder. So in order for chicks to grow feathers, you need them to acclimate to the outdoor temperatures. If your brooder remains too hot, your chicks will not grow feathers properly. This timeline will also depend on the weather outside. So let's just say that we've ran into a lot of people asking us, like, why are their chicks not growing feathers properly? So when you are giving them constant heat and they're under that same amount of heat that you gave them from day one, that's not going to really work for them to learn how to give them the ability to grow feathers. So you're giving them the proper proteins, you're giving them the heat, but you need them to start kind of growing, but they also need to start getting their feathers to grow as well. So your first week of first maybe week and a half, depending on your outside temperatures, or maybe if it's in your house, I don't recommend, but if it is in your house, you're going to have an ambient temperature outside of the brooder that's warmer. So you're going to start with a 95 to 97. Under those heat sources, we use infrared. We use a temperature gauge that actually has a little laser on it to check and make sure. I'm sure not everyone has that, so I understand. On week 2 to 3, you need to slowly reduce those temperatures by raising the heat lamps or maybe turning down your heat source. The easiest solution is to just raise those heat lamps even up a little bit. But when you do raise your heat, I would like you to really observe those chicks. Are they now kind of cramming underneath? They will, adjust, but understand you can't be raising it like 5 inches up and expect them to not have some kind of change. But as they're growing, they need this so that they aren't constantly under heat. If they're under constant heat, they're not going to grow their feathers. So turning down your heat source, your temperature should decrease 2 to 3 degrees on a daily basis on how your chicks react to the changes. Now, stage 3, I have decreased heat more by raising heat lamps or cycling on and off during the day. I understand, again, this is what I do for a living. I'm a poultry farmer mostly, and I understand that not everyone has access to their brooder to cycle heat on and off. So I'm going to give you a kind of a scenario of like right now. So it's really cold. We've had some really dips in the temperatures at night. So you're going to want to make sure that those brooders are warm throughout the night. But maybe during the day, like a New Jersey day, we get up to the 50s and 60s, you might be able to shut your lights off or shut your heat off for a little while just to get them acclimating to adjusting to New Jersey temperatures outside. In that 3 week stage, they already are kind of, feathering out a little bit. So that's something that your heat sources, whether it's turning down your propane heat, or maybe for if you have three lights, you're turning off one or two lights, or if you have one light, you're turning it off for a few hours and you're turning that back on. For decrease heat, lands from raising. And then in stage 4, allow ambient air temperatures to get as close to the outdoor temperatures. Fully feathered chicks are important for successfully transferring your chicks to pasture. So in your last stages, before you're really thinking about taking those chickens out of that warm brooder where they have everything and they're nestled in there and they are enjoying growing and being where they are, you really need to look at what the weather is outside before you're turning them into the coop or their chicken tractor or out into their pastures. You really need to look at that, because that can be crucial. And you've spent all of this energy and all of this time on getting your chicks ready to go outside, and then it could be an absolute soggy rainy week. It could be like we had 60 degrees last week and now we're down to the 40s and 50s. So really look at that 2 week window of when you're about to put your chicks out. Sam, you can go to the next slide. So we're talking chick feed. My husband is the guru for this, but I'm going to try my very best to show you what we do on our farm. So we actually make our own feed. So we are very fortunate. We know that my husband is able to adjust our chick feed and our chicken feed accordingly to what we're seeing in the brooder, what we're seeing out in the pastures, and he is incredible with it. I've gotten kind of a dry run of what he's taught me over the years, and I wanted to show you what we've got. So it's a starter, a grower, and a finisher. So your broilers from 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to want them at 24%. This is their really crucial stage of growing. I mean, they're growing their body, they're growing their meat, they're growing everything, their legs, their feathers, they're growing. So you want that high protein. I put a little note here that if you're going to be starting with chicks, it's best that wherever you're buying your feed from, if you're not making it yourself, they have the proper stages in stock at all times of what you'll need for this entire duration of having your chicks or chickens or layers. So we start off with 24%, and then at 3 weeks, we go to 22%. So if you're buying your feed commercially, you're going to want to have enough to get them through those few weeks. And then you can actually gradually start adjusting into a 24 to 22% by even kind of finishing out that 24, but bringing in that 23, mixing it up. And then you're going to have that finishing stage of 20%. This is for the broilers. I do have a next slide that's going to be for layers, but I just wanted to show you what your broiler percentages are. On the left-hand side, I'm showing the pellets, the crumble, and the mash. On our farm, we make our own, so it's mostly mash. They have mash at all times from the day that they get here until they're laying eggs, and same thing for out in our broilers and our turkeys for mash. This is kind of self-explanatory. My husband knows all of his feed ratios to make it 24 and 22% by adding what he needs to add. So with also to add to all chicken feed is you should have a calcium supplement. And Sam, you can go to the next slide. So your calcium supplement, I added our layer ratios or percentages, I should say, not ratios. And calcium, oyster shells, feed grade lime, and York chips. So for our chicks that are in the brooder, we're giving them grit, and then we are adding then we will go to a little bit larger of a grit, which they have different stages at your local feed store and Tractor Supply. And then we also add for our layers, we are adding we add oyster shells, we add feed grade lime and York chips. And we do this through, once our chickens are established after, what do you say, 4 to 6 weeks, they're into oyster shells. So let's go through our layers. Start out at 24, 4 to 8 weeks is that really good growth stage where I have another slide I'm going to show you, I promise. 4 to 8 weeks, you're going to be on a 20%, and then 8 week pullets, 6 months there to 6 months, you're going to be at 18 layers, 6 months and older. So for our farm, 18% is what we give our layers. But if we see any kind of decrease, or maybe it's cold, we'll adjust the percentage of feed, the protein percentage, sorry, the protein percentage of their feed. Turkeys, we do, it's self-explanatory, 0 to 4 weeks, 28% protein, 5 to 10 weeks, 24% protein, and 11 to finish is 18 to 20. You can go to the next slide, Sam. All right, so this is what I'm showing you. I'm going to go through kind of everything now so here's your chick. The first picture is your chick that just arrived from your farm stand, your local farm store, your Tractor Supply, your hatchery. That's a day old chick. Now what we're working on is getting them to feather out. So your second stage is about 2 to 3 weeks old. And as you can tell, on their breast, their front breasts, they have, they're starting to grow out their breast feathers, they have their flight feathers, they have their tail feathers, and overall they're getting a good start to feather growth. That third picture is a few weeks in, about 4 to 6 weeks, I'd say, maybe a little less. You can tell that their feathers are growing well. All around a great feather growth. That is okay to bring a chicken like that out into the pasture or out into a bigger coop if you're in warmer temperatures. So in the middle of summer, we can put chickens outside, when it's 80 degrees during the 80 to 90 degrees during the day. This time of year, you cannot be putting chicks like that out into the pastures or into their new coops and things like that. On the right, the last picture, that's actually our chicks that came last year. Those are growing. Those are layers that are growing out. Still not laying eggs yet, but that's a great example of what chicks should look like when they're out on pasture and growing out until they start laying eggs. And you are giving, and then these ladies have graduated from this A-frame to their A-frame that they are in now with a laying wagon to lay their eggs. You can go to the next slide, Sam. And again, I'm showing you just the stages. These are broiler chicks. I tried to get pictures for you, but unfortunately, I am not the greatest when it comes to the stages. So these are all pictures that I got off the internet. The first picture on the top left, you can see the chick is, proper size water, perfect. Everything in that picture is something that I would totally agree with. Second stage, you can see that they're growing out those tail feathers and those wing feathers. That third picture I'm looking at, their overall growth as well. It doesn't show the feathers as well. But that top right picture, I wanted to kind of talk about. Our chickens normally do not look like that. That is more of a commercial feed, commercial growing stage, which it's great. Don't get me wrong. The overall size of that chick looks great. But what's lacking for me as a pastured poultry farmer is the feather growth. And honestly, I can't believe I talk about feathers as much as I do. Feathers are really important because the chicks can't really acclimate much of their body temperatures when they're out there dealing with the low temperatures at night and the hot temperatures during the day. So you really want chickens to have more of a feather growth than that guy that's going out to pasture. Will he be fine in the middle of the summer? Absolutely. He'd actually probably be happy to not have so much feathers. But if you're bringing them into a spring or a fall pasture, he's going to want more, or she is going to want more feather growth on that chick because overall his legs look great. Everything about that chick looks great, but I'd like some more feathers on there. You can go to the next slide, Sam. So before you're graduating outside, I touched base on this a little bit, but I wanted to talk about it because it's extremely important. We can only look at the weather for about 14 days. And honestly, we know weather changes at all times. But you really should look at that forecast ahead of time. If you're going to have 3 straight days of rain and you're putting these chicks out into pasture, you're not going to want to, you might want to adjust a little bit and maybe either find a really dry spot on your pasture that you know isn't going to be full of water, or you might want to wait those 3 days and then put your chicks out from the brooder then. Again, extreme weather. We are dealing with extreme weather sometimes, and I completely understand. We've had it happen to us, but I just want to really tell you to do your research in advance before you're moving those chicks out of that warm brooder or whatever it is. Even if the heat sources are off, think ahead of that. Acclimate your brooder temperatures as much as you can. If you have them in a brooder and you might have a look like they're off their heat and you're able to open up a window or maybe cycle out that door, start acclimating them as much as you can to the outdoor temperature. And again, make sure your chickens are feathered out. These chickens, they were obviously out in pasture for a while, but I just wanted to show what chickens they're still growing. They're still in a growing stage. They're not ready for processing yet, but they are feathered out and they're growing well. Next slide, Sam. All right, so here's the questions part. I saw some coming through while we were chatting, and I'm gonna bring some up. Sorry that I talk a lot and very fast. I promise that I try. It's from where I'm from. I talk with my hands and I talk pretty fast. All right, the first one is, what's the pace of cycle on and off, and how long do you leave them off? So I'm gonna say, if your ambient temperature outside of your brooder is going to be in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, you can leave them off for a good few hours. We actually will cycle off. We'll shut them off in the morning. We'll let them go through the day, and when we're about finishing up our evening chores, we'll start the heat source back up. Just so that when it's hot during the day, even if you're not around during the day and it's going to be 90 outside and that's going to affect the ambient temperature, it's just good to, again, check your temperatures outside, check what's going on around your brooder, and they can go a few good hours without that heat source as they're growing out those feathers and such like that. What does the percentage refer to? That's the protein percentage I'm sorry that I didn't say that. I said it, I might have said it, but I didn't type it out on there. So that's the protein percentage. Thank you for responding to that, Sam. York chips. So we get our York chips from our local farm store. I want to say oyster shells and York chips are pretty much the same thing. Am I wrong?
The difference comes if you have customers that have seafood allergies with the York chip.
Okay.
You alleviate that. Since we don't use fish meal, they are.
Okay.
Soy.
So if you do, so my husband is over in the side, and he said that it's more so York chips are a better option if you have someone with a shellfish allergy or something like that. We use York chips and oyster shells. We actually give them access to both. What do you recommend to disinfect? So I actually was going to, I don't know if I added it anywhere. We use lime. We use lime in our brooder. The more the better. Lime water, like you can add water to it, lime paste. Lime is a great disinfectant for your chicks. And then for when I'm taking my waters and feeders and I'm using the hose and washing them all down, you can use Dawn dish liquid, and you can even give a little dabble of white vinegar or even bleach. We don't use bleach as much. Lime is our go-to, and some elbow grease. That would be something I would suggest. Again, I think about how, these are new little baby chicks and new life, and it's just like a baby at home. You want them, like, you don't want germs. You don't want maybe what something else had. We recycle as much as you can. So are you taking precautions? So for avian flu, we are not the people that you will see walking around in Tractor Supply or our local feed store or to pick up our children with our muck boots. So We only use our boots on the ground, and we suggest anyone that comes in and out, which is not many people, but we do have friends that will visit and they know the same thing. We are constantly, our boots are only for our farm. We do not use them elsewhere. If I'm going off the farm, I have a separate pair of boots. As for aerial predators, we use a kite. We have some kites that kind of keep them off. We have 2 livestock guardian dogs that know that any bird is not welcome here. As for our laying flock, I have used, and in my opinion, it has been really successful. I tie off on the poultry netting that we use to surround them. I tie off this. You can look up on Amazon or anywhere really online. It is a reflective tape. It's plastic. It's kind of like cool looking, and I tie it off around their surrounds. We've used CDs. I know CDs are like old school now. We actually use all of our old CDs and we've tied them off to our poultry netting. The crows and anything like that, they don't like shiny things. They don't come in, they don't fly down. Um, Unfortunately, hawk pressure is always a thing. And our livestock guardian dogs do the best that they can. Sometimes they're sleeping when they shouldn't be. And we use these kites that we've got online, and they go in the middle of the field. You just stake them in the ground, long strings, and they're just these big birds that fly around. And when they see them, they think that it's occupied already, and they kind of fly on. We just are replacing them after this winter of not having them. Any resources you would suggest for those raising poultry? Let's see. Resources as of your getting your chicks, I'd say we purchase all of ours from the old Moyers, which is now Hoover's Hatchery. They've been incredible over the years. That's where we've always sourced. For our feeders and waterers, we've used, is it Farm Right? We've used Farm Right, Hoops and More, and Cools is actually a New Jersey-based poultry supplier. They actually have amazing things. They have amazing, our bell waters are from Cools. Our turbo feeders are also from Cools. As for your, I'm thinking more brooder. Sorry, I'm almost going to pastured things. Tractor Supply is really great, honestly. They have a lot of different options there as well. And of course, Amazon is great if you want to do some of the waters and feeders that I talked about. Again,
It's your budget.
your water source should be small enough that, yeah, cool, KUHLS.
Looks like Elise might have frozen. Um,
Am I back?
oh, yep, you're back.
I had a phone call come in. I'm so sorry. What I was saying, so you can hear me, Sam?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So what I was saying is I'm here. I've kind of, my husband and I have trialed and errored a lot of brooders, a lot of a lot of different chicken tractors. I'm here for you. If you want to find me on social media, on Haring Family Farm, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can email me at haringfamilyfarm@gmail.com. I'll try my best to get back to you. Honestly, a DM is easiest, but I'm here for you. If you have any questions, or maybe I spoke too much, or you don't want to talk on something like this, I'm here to help. And we really, we're excited to welcome anyone into the poultry business. There's not many of us, and some people don't like to tell everything, but we are here for the most part to give you anything that you might need. So contact me, or you could also come and visit our farm on April 25th. My husband and I will be showing our A-frame setup and what we do once we've graduated the brooder, and now we're out to pasture of our broilers and our layers. And we would love to see you here on the farm.
Great. Thanks so much, Elise. Thank you for everyone for joining with us, and echoing what Elise said, I hope we'll all see you on the 25th. And then also as a reminder, Craig Haney will be doing a webinar on April 2nd. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.